Hello and welcome to My Two Cents. You are watching episode 1 entitled An Addict Nation. You will find out why, obviously. I call our nation an addict. What I hope for this episode is that we start that very specific conversation that I think we need to have as a country. And even if it just is having that conversation with your friend or having that conversation with your neighbor respectfully, that's a great start because it has to start somewhere. I wanted to preface by sharing a little bit more about me. In 2016, in October 2016, I booked myself into rehab for alcohol abuse. My alcohol abuse had been going on for several years, getting worse and worse. I had been offered help. I had half-heartedly tried to change, but it came to a point in my life where I knew that I had no way out. It felt like everything was closing in, and as a person, I was just falling apart. I was a broken human being. So I booked myself into rehab. I was there for 3 weeks, for 21 days, and I worked my ass off. I will say that going to rehab was one of the hardest choices that I ever made, but it was one of the best choices I have ever made in my life. I learned so much there. I started the healing process. I met such wonderful people. From rehab, I joined a 12-step program here in Cape Town. And for 5 years, or just over 5 years, I worked those 12 steps. I went to meetings 2-3 times a week. Whilst I am no longer a part of that 12-step program, those tools that I gained from those 12 steps and from those meetings, those tools that I gained, I will never lose. I am so grateful for my time there, working those 12 steps, going to meetings, sharing, trying to understand myself, trying to heal myself. Heal thyself. I'm so grateful for my time there. And so many people have said, and I echo this sentiment, that I wish there was a 12-step program for everybody. That it wasn't only a program for people with alcohol abuse or drug abuse or a gambling addiction or sex addiction, for anyone. Because that 12-step program teaches you so much about about taking responsibility for yourself, for your life, for your choices, for how your choices have affected other people. We don't live in a void. So you realize that, or I certainly realized, because I can only speak for myself, I realized that through my alcohol abuse and the terrible choices I was making, I was negatively impacting other people's life. People in my life who I say that I love. Which is why addiction makes no sense. Because you hurt yourself, but you hurt people who you say you love and who you do genuinely love. So I am so grateful for my time in rehab and my time in the 12-step program that I was a part of. So now, why did I share that with you? So, as I mentioned, I titled this episode 1. I entitled it "An Addict Nation," which is what I believe South Africa is. Okay, please don't hear me wrong. I am not saying we are a nation full of addicts. I'm not saying as a nation we are addicted to anything. I'm not trying to promote anything. I'm simply equating the state of our country because I believe countries are living, breathing, moving beings. So I am equating South Africa and our current situation to being an addict. And let me tell you why I say that. So here in South Africa, we have so much negativity thrown at us. High unemployment, high crime rate, continued racial tensions, and 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 divisiveness. We have load shedding, which is just getting worse and worse and worse. There's corruption. This list just goes on and on. But what I have come to understand and learn about addicts, and I myself am an addict, and I will be an addict for my whole life. That alcoholic gene, if it were, is always going to be in me. It is always going to be a part of me. But it's how I go about handling it and managing it and facing it. That is what is most important, in my opinion. So, if I can go back to South Africa, this negativity that we face on a daily basis here, those things are merely a symptom. They are a symptom of something that is so deep rooted that we've not properly faced or faced up to. What I learned in rehab and through working through the 12 steps, what I learned is that our substance of that our substance of choice, mine was alcohol, that one's substance of choice and your abuse of that substance is merely not to diminish the seriousness of the substance abuse, but in order to gain further understanding of it, we learn that your substance abuse is the symptom of some deep-rooted pain, fear, sadness, anger, unfinished business, something that we've been trying to suppress. And certainly for myself, I used alcohol to suppress my pain. One of which was my speech. I am still, even though less so now, but I'm still very I'm still very em- I'm still very em- I'm still very embarrassed of my speech and how I sound. Even though my speech comes and goes and I have good days and bad days, there's still a part of me that feels like I'm not quite a complete human being, that I was born with some kind of defect, even though I've now come to understand that our weaknesses can actually be one. They can actually be one of our strengths. So for me, my speech and my stutter was a big thing that I drank alcohol on. You know, I had the misguided notion that when I was drunk, I, would speak fluently, and maybe for a while it did help. Alcohol's often termed a social lubricant. So yes, for a while alcohol helped, but after a certain point you are so drunk anyway that you can't speak. So so that was a bit of a misguided notion. And so I was drinking on all sorts of pain, pain from my past, my speech, sadness of people I had lost, the things that I had thought I had dealt with, that I had not properly dealt with, and that only came up once I surrendered, once I made myself vulnerable, and once I broke that lock that was keeping all of this boxed up. I could finally see and feel what I needed to heal from. So in my mind, this negativity that we're faced with in South Africa is a symptom of this pain that we have not properly healed. And the pain I am talking about is apartheid. And I know that I'm going to get shot down for saying that. And, people are going to call me a bleeding heart and bringing up apartheid's broken record. But it keeps coming up because we've not properly dealt with it. Post 1994, we had the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. Whilst I feel that there were some very positive outcomes from the TRC, and while I feel that it was handled in a way that was right for us as a country at the time, now in 2022, I am of the opinion that we didn't go far enough. And that is catching up with us now. One thing that makes me so unbelievably sad is that we're so stuck in our pain that we've got no one else to blame but ourselves. We have all caused this. We have all directly or indirectly, we have all been a part of why South Africa is where it is right now. And that is in no way a judgment. This is simply my opinion, and I'm speaking for myself. I have directly or indirectly contributed in my way to this nation being so broken. Being a white male, I have been unemployed for going on 3 years now. It's not the first time in my life that I've been unemployed. At this stage, I'm quite sure I have applied for hundreds of jobs. In the last 3 years, I have been granted 3 interviews. That's it. And I can't help but wonder to myself, what is it that is blocking me? Because I feel like there is something, whether it's God or whichever God you worship, whichever higher power you have, or whether the universe is blocking me, but I feel like something is blocking me from moving forward in my life. And I feel like it is this pain, this guilt that I have inherited as a white person in this country, and but a white person in this world, because we are living in a world too that is full of pain and unhealed wounds. But I, of course, want to focus on South Africa. Let me speak about what I mean by this pain and this guilt. I feel like every white person in this country has inherited or has been influenced in some way in their lives by this guilt or by this pain. Our lives are being affected by these unhealed wounds or these things that have been left unsaid. I feel like the remnants of apartheid are still very much with us. All you have to do is drive on the N2 highway or any highway or any road in South Africa to see a homeless person, to see people living in shacks, people living in poverty. And this is all a byproduct of apartheid and a system that we've not entirely healed from. Here's what I believe we need as a nation. We need a reboot of the TRC. We need the Truth and Reconciliation Commission 2.0 that should be run by the people, not by a political party or people with some kind of political or economic or business agenda. It needs to be run by the average Jane, average Joe on the street. We need another TRC. But this TRC needs to focus on making amends. That is one of the big things that I learned in rehab and in the 12-step program I was part of. We need to be accountable to ourselves and to others for our actions. And we need to begin the process of making amends. And I'm not just talking about saying sorry. We need to make amends. We need to mend what is broken. And yes, that can start with a genuine apology. But that apology is useless without actions. And that's a conversation that I would like to be a part of, that I would like to start or be a part of starting it. In my lifetime, and I stand to be corrected, I have never heard someone, a famous person, a celebrity, a politician, a member of a royal family, anyone. I have never heard anyone properly apologize for the horrors and for the atrocities of apartheid, but also the history of racial injustice that we have throughout the world, in America, in Australia, in the UK, with the dark colonial past. The closest I have heard anyone come is on a royal tour, either to Jamaica or I think it was to Barbados. Prince William, now the Prince of Wales. He came very close to apologizing, but their, their royal visit was marred by major protesting, and the pain still being felt there was very visible. It was very tangible, as it is here. And in one of his speeches, he never apologized, but it was the closest thing to an apology that I've ever heard. He basically addressed the dark past of colonialism in that country and said that those injustices, those horrors, should have never happened. But it wasn't an apology. And how do we heal without an apology? How do we begin healing without a proper apology? So that's what I would like to speak on in episode 2. We are going to be continuing this train of thought, and I will see you in part 2. Thank you for watching. I am sending you peace. I am sending you love. And let's get to work.